A very good morning, one and all. I am Sriram Daida, working as an Associate Professor of Commerce at Badruka College of Commerce and Arts. I deem it as the utmost privilege to be the moderator of this webinar on interview skills, hosted by my learned colleague, Mr. Mitesh Kadakia, Associate Professor of Commerce, organized by our college. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest, said Albert Einstein. With a similar motto and ideology, in the year 1950, great philanthropist and intellect, late Raja Bankatlal Badrukaji laid the glorious foundations of Badruka College, which eventually spread its extensive branches, forming the most prestigious Bodhi Vruksha. Seth Gashiram Gopikishan Badruka Educational Society has 7 institutions offering courses for intermediate, UG, and PG students, along with the courses in music and dance. I would like to invite Dr. M. Srinivas, Vice Principal, Badruka College, to say a few words.
Yeah. Am I audible to you all? Okay. Good morning, all. I welcome all the participants to this one-day national webinar on interview skills. It is a proud moment for us at Badruka College of Commerce and Arts as our faculty is conducting the webinar. We at Badruka College of Commerce and Arts believe in overall development of our students and staff. We, being the pioneers in commerce education in Telangana, are also leaders in the field. I am sure that this 1 hour investment that you are making in this webinar would be very beneficial to you all, and mainly my student friends who are attending this webinar, and you would take away a lot of learning and knowledge at the end of this webinar. I wish Mr. Mitesh Kadakia all the best for this webinar and many more to come. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Throughout the state of pandemic and hereby lockdown, Badruka has been actively organizing several knowledge-seeking webinars. Appreciating today's participants, I now move on to introduce the title of this webinar once again. Hold on. I have a logical interview question for you. Here's the answer. Which one weighs heavier, a kilogram of cotton or a kilogram of stones? Keep your thinking on. I will share the answer at the end of the session. For the coming 50 minutes, stay sharp and lend your curious ears to the speaker, Mr. Mitesh Kadakia, who would enlighten us on the interview skills. Over to Mitesh.
Thank you, Sriram sir, and welcome everyone to this one-day national webinar on interview skills. Normally, the question, why on interview skills? Before we start with the session, let me just give the reason behind it. Normally, we have noticed that a lot of colleges do conduct campus recruitment training, that is CRT, for their students. However, during this period of pandemic, for many colleges, it would be a little difficult to conduct such kind of a CRT. So we at Badruka thought, why not share our knowledge with students, which might help them to get their dream jobs. So let's start with the today's session, which I will be taking you through with the help of a PPT. The PowerPoint presentation has got about 22 slides. So let's look at what are we going to cover in today's session and how are we going to proceed. Next 50 minutes can really help you secure your dream job. So let's have a look at this. First thing, let's start with a positive note. Get, set, go. Now, for any kind of an interview, there are two things which are very important. One, understand. Next, prepare so that you can excel. The big question arises, what do we need to understand? We need to understand two things. First, what the companies expect from you. And the second is, what are the various recruitment processes involved? In today's session, we are going to prepare for both these questions. One, what the companies expect from you. For that, you need to develop your employability skills. We'll be discussing about them. And then, what are various recruitment processes involved? You need to prepare for various skill tests. We will be trying to cover almost all required skill tests for a campus interview. Once you have understood and prepared, you are ready to excel. Let's start by looking at some of the basic employability skills which are needed by any interviewee. There's the list. First one, which is considered as one of the most important ones, good verbal skills. When we are talking about verbal skills, our basic aim is to make you people understand that you need to be good at your communication skills. Your pronunciations, the way you form your sentences are going to matter a lot in your interviews. Next one is a positive body language. I personally feel that body language plays a major role when it comes to interviews. I have observed over the period of this time that there are so many instances where people have certain habits, like, biting their nails, or maybe playing with their hair, or just tapping their feet. This actually shows that you are nervous or you are not much interested. Avoid such things. Have a good positive body language. Active listening. We are going to discuss in depth about active listening, because I think we as students often miss this one good employability skill in us. Self-confidence. Guys, very important. The key to success for anything is your self-confidence. However, please remember, there is a very thin demarcating line between self-confidence and overconfidence. It's extremely important to have self-confidence, but please don't be overconfident. That can mar your chances. Next is a positive attitude. You need to take the best out of every situation. You need to stay positive. You get something, great. You don't get something, awesome. You have learned something. So you need to carry a positive attitude. Well groomed, again, grooming part we are going to discuss in depth, what to wear, how to wear, what not to wear, and all these things. Next is adaptability to change. Now, this is always a challenge for a young person. In college, where you are absolutely carefree, you are happy, you enjoy your life, from this closed, secured environment, you will be moving to an organization, a company where you work, where you are not as secured as you are in a college. Everything changes. And at that time, your adaptability to change will be your biggest support. Next is respect for time. In business, a very common saying goes, time is money. I understand that money cannot buy time, but then you need to understand that if you respect others' time, time will respect you. It's always important to be punctual, be on time. As you can see today, we started sharp at 11, respecting the time of all our participants who were there waiting for us. And the next one is team player. We have all learned that human is a social animal. We cannot survive alone. Similarly, in any organization, you cannot work alone. You cannot be a one-man army. That sounds really good in movies, but in real life, that does not happen. It's always a teamwork. And to be successful in your life, it is important that you are a team player. I hope we have understood this employability skills, and this is something which you people need to have. Now, let's look at the first point, which is effective communication skills. Communication is divided into verbal and non-verbal, and that is what is important this chart talks about. When you look at communication mix, you'll be extremely surprised to see that our spoken words are only 7% of our total communication mix, and our non-verbal communication is 55%. Guys, non-verbal communication is your body language, your gestures, how you behave under a given situation through your body. That matters a lot. At this point, I just want to share a small experience that I have regarding employment or interview of air hostesses in one of the biggest air companies in India, air carrying companies in India. This company was situated in Mumbai, India, where they will do all the initial scrutiny and screening of all the candidates. And for the final round of interview, they will call the selected candidates at 10 in the morning and ask them to wait in a room. And they will not be called for an interview till 2:30 in the afternoon. The candidates present in the room would think, what is happening? We are sitting here for 1 hour, 2 hours, now 3 hours, 4 hours. What's happening? In reality, that waiting time was their interview. There, the room was covered with multiple CCTV cameras where the HR team would sit into another room and observe only the body language of the candidate. How do they behave under different situations? The situation of stress, their testing of patience, and purely based on that, they were selected. The non-verbal communication makes a huge difference. Guys, I just spoke about your body language a little bit more of it. Do not sit with a crossed leg or your hands like this, because that shows that you are closed. You are not interested in listening. You need to carry a positive body language. That non-verbal communication, that gesture will have a greater impact on the interviewer. And of course, the next one, which is 38%, is tone of voice. A lot of social media sites, I keep on reading this posters. Half of my problems are because of my tone of voice. That is so true. In fact, I would just like to go one step ahead and say not half, but most of our problems are just because of the tone of voice. The way you speak, the control over the pitch of your tone is extremely important. For example, if a friend of you says, "You are like a donkey," you would not feel bad. But if the same person says, "You are a donkey," you would feel hurt. Please understand, both the statements were exactly the same. It was only the tone which changed. Guys, always take care of your tone. Once you control your tone, you know how to modulate your voice, your major problem is solved. This is something that helps you. However, when you see here on the screen, oh, spoken words are only 7%, I can relax. I really don't need to worry about that. It's a mistake. Because in interview, they look for all three of them put together. In spite of the fact that in communication mix it is only 7%, your verbal communication does matter. So even practice that. Right? Now, we are going to discuss 5 points of effective communication. The first point is plan your communication. Most common problem is we normally speak and then think. And that's the problem. We always need to get 2 answers in our mind before we speak. First, why am I talking? Second, what is the purpose? Guys, if you have the clarity of why and what, trust me, you will never speak something which is not required. In fact, your communication will be to the point, and that is what is expected from every candidate. The next one is choose the medium. Language. Language chala important undi. Kyunki agar na avde, तर तुम्हाला खूप प्रॉब्लेम होऊ शकतो. Now what I did is I used multiple languages here. And the problem is when I first spoke in Telugu, few people can understand. Then it was Gujarati. Again, only few can understand. And then I came to Marathi. Again, limited number of people can understand. However, when I'm speaking in English, it is a language which most of us can understand. Select your language properly. Always speak in the language which both the person who is taking the interview and the person who is giving the interview can understand. That is, the interviewer and the interviewee are comfortable in understanding. If you speak in language which you are good at, maybe the interviewer would not be able to understand it the way you want it to be understood. So make sure speak in a common language which can be understood. Next is the style. Style of medium normally does not matter when we are talking about a physical one-on-one interview. But with the new normal of pandemic times. This online thing has does made a difference. Here, style of communication will make an impact. And last one is semantics. A lot of times we speak something without really understanding that this word can have a multiple meaning for different people. Like for example, if I just say someone, "Jaake supari le le," which simply means I need to go to a shop and buy a betel nut, maybe for a puja. But then if you understand a Mumbai slang, it would actually mean you take a contract to kill someone. The statement is same. Two people can have two different interpretations of it. Semantics. Normally choose your words and phrases very carefully so that they do not have multiple meanings to it. Right? Let's look at the third one. Remove barriers. That's most important one. When we speak, there may be barriers. For example, let's look at this live situation. You are watching us live on YouTube. At the same time, you might be getting messages on your mobile phone for different social medias, right? Like WhatsApp, Instagram, something. You at one end are listening to me, your another hand and eye is at your mobile. Distraction. That's a barrier to communication. You are only hearing me, not listening to me. This does happen with us. And this also happens in an interview. If there is a barrier, make sure that such barriers are removed and we convert those barriers into our gateways. How? First thing is seek first to understand and then to be understood. That's our psychological barrier. A lot of times we don't listen to people. We assume, I know what he wants to say. Never do that. Understand what the other person said, interpret it, and then speak so that that person can understand you properly. Next is overcome distractions. You are into an interview room, and in the next room, maybe some other interview is going on where the person is speaking a little loud. Do not get distracted. Maybe in your pocket, your phone is getting vibrated. Don't worry about that. Try and avoid any kind of a distraction. Because yes, we can do multitasking, but we cannot give our 100% when we are into interview if we are distracted. Focus on the interview. Next is empathize with other people. You need to respect and empathize everyone. The interviewer is another individual, a human being. Your thoughts might not be exactly the same as the thoughts of an interviewer. Sometimes if interviewer says something, you might feel why did he or she said it? Don't worry. Understand from their perspective. You empathize with their values, their beliefs, their needs, and their sentiments. That will help you to stay on track rather than getting distracted. Use a common language. We have already discussed it. And let's go to the next one. Clarify ideas before communicating. That is what I said once. That is what I'm repeating again. Think and speak. Never speak and think. Don't reverse the process because that is bad. A lot of students I have seen, when a question is asked in an interview, they immediately answer as if it is fastest finger first of KBC. I answer first and I get 1 crore. That does not happen. A question is asked, take a moment, understand it, create answer in your mind, and then speak. That always makes you a perfect person. So make sure, guys, clarify your ideas and only then speak. Let's look at the fourth point, active listening. Something which I believe, and I think most of the teachers present would believe, our students don't do. Unfortunately, we are not really trained for active listening. We hear, we do not listen. There's a huge difference between hearing and listening. You hear for the sake of hearing it. You listen to understand it. Active listening is something which is needed in an interview because if you are not actively listening, you might misinterpret a statement by interviewer and your answer goes haywire. Some basic points to consider. 1. Listen with an open mind. Don't go for an interview with a preconceived mind. I know this will happen. I know my previous candidate was asked this, so they will ask me the same question. Never do that. Listen with an open mind. Once you have heard it, Make an effort to understand what was asked. Empathize and reflect your understanding as soon as the question is asked. Normally, you need to give some feedback. Oh, thank you. It's a good question. Oh, it's great. I'll answer this. Give some kind of a feedback, some kind of a response to it, and be aware of what is said and what is not said. Guys, this is called reading between the lines. HR people are the smartest breed of people that you will find in corporates. They speak little, they mean a lot. Normally, when we hear, we can only understand what is said. But when we actively listen, we also understand what is not said. And that is the key to success. Because if you understand what is not said and answer appropriately, that's it. We have cracked the round. All right? The last one. Don't jump to conclusions. Draw conclusions. When you listen with an open mind, normally you do not jump to conclusions. It is only when you are mentally prepared, I know what they will say, you jump to conclusions. But if you listen with an open mind, you make an effort to understand, you draw conclusions as to what they said. And that makes you a good listener and a good candidate for the job. The last one is feedback. Guys, normally we expect that we should be giving feedback. Please understand, even when you are answering, the HR person needs to give the feedback. For example, you are giving a certain statement and there is absolutely no response from the HR. Take a pause. Let HR give some kind of a feedback, maybe simply saying, yep, go ahead. Okay, at least something, because that means your message has reached that person correctly. Until you get a feedback, advisably do not proceed. In case if you feel that you have not got the desired feedback, maybe change or alter your message a little and speak once again, because their understanding of what you are saying is equally important, because only when they understand what you said, they can give you points on it. So make sure that feedback is present every time, right? Now, let's look at some final guidelines for good listening. Practice active listening. Active listening does not come overnight. It is not just going to happen that, oh, it's there. You need to practice it. If you are in a classroom with your friends or wherever you are, try and listen actively, because you need to listen for facts and feelings, content and intent. Listen, understand, interpret, only then answer, never before that. Next is identify barriers to good listening. Knock them down. Any barrier can be a problem for us. Let's identify and knock it off. Next is build empathy and check for understanding. Build that empathy, the relation between the interview and interview, that we both understand each other well. And then, of course, check whether we are on the same page. Next is read and use body language effectively. If you are speaking to HR and HR suddenly looks like this, and then HR says, oh, this here, that's an indication that HR is not actually paying attention to what you are saying. Look at their body language. If you feel that they are distracted, take a pause, get their attention back, and continue with your communication there. Next is speak slowly and clearly. We Indians, by default, are fast speakers. Our rate of speech is normally much higher than the rate of speech which is actually required. How can we improve on it? It is so simple. I'll give you a simple technique to reduce your rate of speech. All you need to do is focus or concentrate on your word end. If you are listening actively, you would notice that the last part of the word is what I stress a little. What happens is this increases my time to speak that word, which automatically decreases my rate of speech. I can speak slowly and, of course, clearly. To speak clearly in English, it is always advised to drop your lower jaw a little more. because English is a language where if you can just drop your lower jaw a little, the pronunciation comes out much better. So speak slow and clearly. I've seen so many people who speak so fast, they can read and use body language effectively, speak so and clearly. Good, heard what I said, but difficult for you to understand what I said. And HR doesn't have enough time to interpret what you said. So make sure you speak slow and you speak clearly. Last point is speak effectively, speak persuasively. Speak effectively. Make sure what you say is precise, concise, and make it persuade the other person. Be confident of what you are speaking. Don't say like, I think I am good for this job. Never do that. Be confident, be persuasive. Say it in a manner that the other person believes in what you say. Your belief is what will matter a lot. All right. So this is something about the communication skills. Now let's move to directly your campus. You are sitting in front of your systems, but think that you are in campus. Let's look at various modes of selection on campus. The first round is initial screening, which is basically they go through your resume. What do they check in your resume? Mainly, they focus on your academic scores because each company will have a certain level of cutoff marks. Some companies want candidates to score minimum 60%. Some companies do not want candidate to have failed in any subject anytime. So they do the initial screening with the help of your resume. Of course, how to make a resume is what we are going to learn here. The next one is a written test. Normally, a written test is divided into three parts. Verbal ability, that's your communication. Reasoning, that's how logical you can be. And attention to details, that is your presence of mind. This test basically assesses your various skills like logical ability and problem solving skills, analytical and arithmetical skills, your verbal ability, your time management, and most importantly, your IQ and EQ. That's intelligence quotient and emotional quotient. If I just go maybe a decade back, there was hardly anyone who knew something called emotional quotient. It was all about IQ, how intelligent you are. But now, in modern times, EQ has become equally important, our emotional quotient. We Indians by default are highly emotional. However, we need to balance our emotional quotient. So that is what they try to check with your written test. After the written test, the next round is group discussion. In initial screening, some people are filtered. After written test, others are filtered, and then they come to GD, the final round of filtration. A lot of people are filtered. Here in GD, the skills they assess are your group skills, that's the teamwork ability in you. Of course, your communication skills because you speak a lot here, and your creativity. How creatively, how smartly you can answer or respond to another person. This is what is checked in a group discussion. And then the last round, the interview round. Normally, you will have two one-on-one interviews. The first will be a technical round of interview where they look at your technical proficiency. For example, if you are an engineering student, they will focus on your subject. If you are a commerce student, they focus on that subject. So purely on the subject matter of what you have learned in past 4 years, 4.5 years of your college. And then comes the HR round, where they try to check your behavioral skills. Are you fit to work with us or not, is what they check with the HR round, the behavioral skills round. Okay. Now, one thing that is not present in this particular slide, however, I have observed in past some time, in between the written test and group discussion, few companies have introduced another round called JAM, just a minute. That is like a pre-filtration to the GD. In this round, they expect a candidate to speak on any topic of their choice or on a given topic for 1 minute. Now, you might listen to this and feel 1 minute, but suddenly when you are asked to speak it is a little difficult. Here, they basically check for your confidence, your body language, and your communication skills. Jam round. Quite a lot of companies have started going to jam round now so that they can reduce the number of people going ahead for the GD round, right? So that is also one round which you need to be mentally prepared with. Okay, looking at the test. Basically, clearing a test should be an easy target for anyone who's got little logical and reasoning ability with basic subject knowledge. All right, how do we prepare for a test? Of course, the first and the easiest way is take mock tests. We are in this modern era. Okay, Google Baba gives us blessings for everything. You can just search for various interview kind of mock tests on internet and appear for them. You will be able to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and you can work on your weakness, because each company will have a different kind of a test to be conducted. Plus, for the mock test, time your test. You have to make sure that you start the test on time, because the HR says, however, you also end the test before time so that you get enough time to recheck your answers, because each section in a test is important and you should give proportionate time to each of it. Next one, very important, check for negative marking. A lot of companies in recent periods have started putting negative markings. If there is a negative marking, attempt only those questions where you know the answer. Kindly do not play akkad bakkad and say, I think it should be B. Don't do that. Because if you don't answer, you don't get a mark, but at the same time, you don't get negative marks. If you attempt and that's wrong, you get negative marking. Avoid negative markings. More importantly, try to keep yourself calm before the test. Yes, I understand. Easier said than done. All right, because even before this webinar, I had butterflies in my stomach. So I can understand that when you people go for a test, you will have that. But at least we can train our mind. The best thing to do is have a sip of water before the test. That helps you relax, have a deep breath, and start doing it. Right? Keep your calm, because when tensed, your mind cannot think at that speed at which it can think when you are calm and relaxed. Last one, extremely important for Indian college students, carry your own stationery. Excuse me, give me pen, I forgot this, give me that. It's common, it's universal in India. A lot of people don't carry their basic stationery. Guys, the problem is in that test room, HR is present. They are observing you. You go for a test and you don't have a stationery. That shows that your attitude is not proper towards this test. And that gives you a negative score. Make sure at least the basic stationery like an eraser, a pencil, and a pen is what you carry with you. It doesn't weigh much. Trust me, hardly 50 grams. I'm sure everyone is strong enough to carry that, right? Let's move ahead. Group discussion. You will be surprised that this one round tests how many of your personality traits. Just look at the list. Team player, your reasoning ability, leadership, flexibility, assertiveness, initiative, creativity, inspiring ability, listening, awareness, and whatnot. A lot of people say, sir, I think you are mistaken. One test cannot have so many personality traits being tested of a candidate. But guys, once you focus on what is GD, you will automatically realize that why is it considered as such an important round in interview. Let it be the interview for a job, let it be an interview for admission to the best B schools in the country, or even for IIMs. Every interview will have group discussion as a compulsory round in it, because this is the only round which can test multiple personality traits of a candidate. So obviously you need to focus than any other round, because you are prepared for it. Naturally, you are prepared for the other rounds of interview. You have shown all your personality traits, you are through, interview becomes easier. Okay? For a group discussion, I'll just give you some hints and making it very clear. These are some hints that I have observed over a period of time. These are not the only points, but then these are the important points. All right. The first one, initiation of discussion. Get the ball rolling. The person who can start gets maximum point because that shows your leadership quality. Not everyone is capable enough in a group of 10 to 12 members and then take the lead to call everyone together and say, okay, guys, time for us to start the discussion. Let me begin with, and then put across your thought process. If you rolling or breaking the ice, as to what it is called in the business jargon, is the most important trait that shows how good a leader or initiator you are. Next is always keeping or trying to keep discussion on track. When you are speaking, make sure you do not deviate from the topic. If you feel that any other participant is getting distracted, grab an opportunity, pause, ask that person to stop for a moment, and request them to get back to the topic of discussion and not to get deviated. Again, if you are able to do it, that's a very good symbol because it indicates you can steer a team, you can manage a team, and that's a very positive thing. Next is conclusion on time. Respect time. If you remember, that's what we did the initial slide. That is what is here. If the initiation has been taken by a person and the same person can conclude on time, that's it. The person has cracked GD. Difficult because everyone who goes for a GD has prepared and they know where they can score maximum points. That is where your smartness comes into play. You should be able to identify that one pause taken by a person to grab the opportunity and either initiate or conclude. At least one of this two has to be done by a candidate who wants to get selected. That really helps them. Okay. Next is your capability to keep your cool and listen as well as putting your points. Common. Everyone in GD wants to prove their stuff. Everyone wants to prove that I have knowledge, I am the best. What happens here is we suddenly rise our pitch. Our pitch goes up. We start discussing in a very heavy tone pitch. We get into something like an argument situation. Once you enter into an argument, that's it. A negative point has been given. The person doesn't have the patience and you have lost the battle there. It's important to keep your cool. Listen to what everyone is saying and put your points logically there. That would be a good thing for you to do. Next is respecting other participants. Guys, everyone is an interviewee as you are. You are not superior to anyone else. Keep that in mind. Give respect, get respect. Even if you feel that what someone said is not good or illogical, kindly make sure that you respect the participant. Maybe you want to say something, you can say it in a good tone, in a friendly tone, but do not insult or humiliate anyone because that is a big no. Of course, the next slide shows what are the no-nos, what we should never ever do in a group discussion. The first point, what we just discussed, do not argue. If there is a conflicting point, take an opportunity to speak. Say that person, what you said maybe is correct from your perspective, and I have my perspective. I feel that this is correct, which means you have put your point without arguing. And that's the best thing anyone can do in a group discussion. Next is be assertive, not aggressive. Being assertive is a great quality. Stand by your point. Do not change your thoughts after listening to someone else. What you said, you need to stand by it. You are assertive. I say, I support this, I support this. However, for that assertiveness, you don't need to be aggressive. You can still keep your cool, you can keep your calm and speak in a logical, positive manner so that you can convince another person to agree to what you have said. Do not be aggressive. Do not get into argument. Both of them are a big no. Next is don't assume but clarify. Lot of times it happens that we are in a group discussion. Someone has answered your point and you have not understood that point very clearly. And then immediately we start assuming, oh, she meant that. And you suddenly get out of your control. Never do that. If you are not very confident, clarify what that person said and then respond. Do not assume. All right. Next is keep your voice and pitch in control. Just the change in the tone of the voice or the level of the pitch will change from being assertive to being aggressive. Let's not do that. Let's make sure that we are in control. Our tone and our pitch is completely in our control. Let's not lose our cool, because a group discussion is an average of 15 to 20 minutes. Each one of us is capable to control our emotions for 15 to 20 minutes. That's where EQ comes into play. Next is a definite no to slang. This modern times and that too this lockdown has made everyone habituated to social media. And we, speak in so many slangs. Guys, please remember, you are in a formal interview, not chatting with your friends on social media. Never, even by mistake, use a slang. Speak in a proper, normal, acceptable language, not in a slang. It's a big, big, big no. Don't be too animated. Very few people do it. I've not seen many people doing it, but then people who do it too much. I'll just try to show you what some people do. I think this is right. No, you should do this. That's excessive. That's exaggerating. Do not be too animated. Yes, a little bit of body language is always needed, but extensive body language, that's been too animated. And it looks bad, It doesn't look very good. So don't be too animated. Yes, use your body language. The next one is don't interrupt others. Now, a lot of times, on a face-to-face training for this, students often ask, sir, if we don't interrupt, we can never speak. No, that's not the case. If you don't interrupt, still you can speak. How? Your smartness. You need to be really smart. Listen carefully. No one, practically no one, can speak continuously. Wait for that one moment where the other person takes a pause or stops to think. Grab that opportunity and immediately start speaking. That's called seeking an opportunity and not interpreting anyone. Seek opportunity, do not interpret. Because when you interrupt, it's more like insulting that person, and insulting anyone is not acceptable. Let's look at the interview thing now. As I said earlier, we are going to see what goes into a winning resume. The first rule is KISS. Keep it simple and short. That is very, very important. I've seen so many resumes. Some students who are freshers, they make a resume in a language which is like, oh my God, it has come just out of Shashi Tharoor's book or something like that. The problem is, even the interviewer does not understand what actually you mean to say. Why do we want to show all that thing? Make it a simple resume, a short resume. The best way to make a resume is make it to the point. Avoid using paragraphs in your resume. As far as possible, try to use points. A point system is the best way of doing it. Next is mention all relevant information. Sir, just now you said make it short and now you are saying relevant information. Short does not mean eat up the information. Short means do not give unnecessary thing. Any relevant information should not be missed. Even if it means that putting all relevant information may take your resume to 3-4 pages, acceptable, because the information in the resume is relevant. Next is highlight only unique points. So many resumes, guys, I have seen. You will see that 30-40% of the resume is bold, italics, underline. As an interviewer, you get confused what is really important, and ultimately you don't read the resume. Hardly any information which is actually important should be highlighted. For example, in your academics, you have got a gold medal, just highlight gold medal. You have represented your college in some inter-university competition, just highlight that inter-university competition. Don't need to highlight everything and anything which is there on the resume. Right? The next one is don't exaggerate or include wrong info. Common problem, guys. A lot of people like to put so many things into resume which they think it's so great. Do not exaggerate. Give what is there as it should be. It should never be exaggerated. And most importantly, never in your resume give a wrong information. There is a very strong chance that you are caught. Guys, if you are caught, it's not only about losing that job, it's about losing your reputation, and which is not at all good. Okay. Next is don't make it too colorful or jazzy. In fact, I always suggest the resume looks beautiful in black and white. However, you still feel you want to put some kind of shading in your resume. At the most, what you can do is use some executive simple soothing colors like maybe gray or very light bluish color on the resume. As far as possible, avoid using any colors on your resume. Last one is check for any errors. Normally, we use computerized softwares to prepare our resumes. So if there is any grammatical error or spelling mistake, it will be identified by that particular software. So we really don't need to worry much about this, but still check for any errors if there are there. Okay. Next, what goes into a resume? The different things that we need to include in our resume. Educational qualification with all scores. I have seen resumes, in fact, many resumes would say past 10th, past 12th, past BCom, from which college or university, and they do not talk about their scores. Guys, give your scores there because initial screening is done based on that. Okay. Maybe if it's a CGPA score, it's a percentage, it's a point wise marks, whatever, give your score properly. Okay, because that does matter for initial screening. Next is other certification. A lot of students nowadays, do multiple other courses along with their graduation. You might have done some certification course, maybe in certain software or maybe in Tally or something. State that you have been certified as so and so. Next is IT and other skills. Very important. Today's modern world, most of the world is done by using technology, mainly computers. So you need to show that you are IT savvy. At least I can use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, show it separately. Okay, fluency in using or learn, specialize, whatever, give that. Personality traits. Normally, avoid putting personality traits in your resume. Show them. However, yes, if you are putting it, it's a good practice, but put only those personality traits which you can actually show in your interview. Maybe 2 or 3 personality traits, enough. The next is hobbies and extracurricular activities, guys. Don't say stories here. No one is expecting you to have 5 hobbies and 10 extracurricular activities. If you have 2 hobbies, just state 2 of them because HRs are smart. If you write 5 hobbies, what they do is they intentionally try to pick up a hobby which they feel that after observing you, you might not be having that hobby. Common thing I'll tell you, almost every resume you read, reading is a common hobby. Students don't read their textbooks and they say that reading is their hobby. Guys, they immediately start asking you questions. Which was the last book you read? Who is your favorite author? And you are like, sorry, it was a joke. I just wrote the reading because everyone wrote. Never do that. Genuinely write what are your hobbies. Extracurricular, if you have really done something right, not done, ignore it. But don't give the heading extracurricular activities none. That's crazy. That's bad. Don't give that topic, just move to the next one. And the last is your contact details. Contact details includes your full name, your address, your telephone, that is landline number, if any, your mobile number, and your email address. Your social media handles are not required. In recent period, I have seen people giving their Instagram and Facebook and I don't know what all. That's not needed. Just the basic contact details. Got this? So this is what goes in a resume. Next one. Let's discuss what to wear first for men. Formal trousers and button down shirt. Button down shirt is tuck in, right? Normally boys do that, but then formal trousers, normally they don't wear. For them, denim and any shirt, the job's done. When you are going for an interview, make sure not to wear denim, wear a formal trouser. A conservative tie. Normally, we don't need to wear tie. We are not expected to wear a tie. However, if you are wearing a tie, wear a conservative tie, which is a normal tie, a plain tie or with little design. Don't try to wear a jazzy silk tie or tie with cartoon print on it and all that stuff. That's not formal. That's casual. That's party. Wear a formal tie. Leather belt. It's a must. If you are wearing a trouser, you have to wear a leather belt only. And then polished shoes. I understand that mainly no one does that, but then yes, there is a certain lot of boys who do this. They go for an interview in their floaters or maybe even in chappal. I've seen that. Never do that. That's a very bad dressing, bad grooming. Next is no earrings or jewelry. Until you are wearing a earring or any jewelry for religious purpose, other than that, do not wear it for an interview. I don't say it's bad, but then that shows that you are a little casual, which a lot of companies do not prefer. Avoid wearing it. Clean, trimmed fingernails. People often think, sir, fingernails, who is going to come and say me, show me your nails? They don't say that. But when you walk into the room, you talk to them, you keep your hands on the table, they do observe anything and everything. Even that is observed, and that talks about your hygiene. At least in this modern time, hygiene is the most important thing. Okay. Next is minimal cologne, that's perfume. Don't wear heavy perfume. That gives headache to many people. Wear a normal, soft, soothing perfume. Perfume should be enough to cover your body odor. That should not be there for everyone to smell and say, oh, good. That's not needed. We wear perfume just to cover our body odor. All right. So wear minimal cologne. The next is a presentable portfolio case. Important, guys. So many times, even every HR, I think, would agree with what I'm saying, that students, when they go for campus interview into the interview room, they just carry a piece of paper with them and just walk in. That piece of paper is, of course, their resume, but it looks really bad. Just try to carry one portfolio case. A small, simple portfolio case is enough. You don't need to carry a really good, costly one. Even a simple 10 rupee portfolio case, which you get in every stationery store, is okay. Keep your resume into it, keep a pen in it and a blank paper, carry that and move in. Just imagine you are sitting in front of an HR, opening a portfolio case, removing the resume and giving it. It looks so very professional. Always try and carry that, right? So this is about boys, men, and now women. Most of the things for women are same, with a little change here and there. A neutral colored suit with trouser or skirt or a salwar and kameez. Here what is more important is a neutral color. Don't wear a very jazzy colored clothes which actually hit the human eye. Wear a very neutral colored cloth. Next is a formal footwear without high heels. Girls, you are going for an interview, not for a modeling assignment. Heels or high heels are normally not expected to be worn for a formal interview. Minimal makeup, if possible, try and avoid it. Perfume, I have discussed. Jewelry, I have discussed. Fingernails, yes, normally girls are extremely good with this. And of course, even the next one, well-kept hairdo. These 2 points, I don't think anyone needs to teach women. They are really very good at this. They are, in fact, the best at it. And the portfolio case that we have already discussed. So this is what you people should be wearing to be well groomed on the day of interview. Traditional interview, divided into two parts. First, I'll only be talking about the left hand side of the screen, the typical questions, and we'll try to give you some points or some hints how they should be answered. First, why are you applying for this position? Give a simple answer. Don't make it very complicated. Simple answer should be, this position is the position of my area of interest, and I would love to work in the area of my interest. Simple. Remember the formula of KISS. Keep it simple and short. Okay. Next, how would you describe yourself? Now, this is a very simple answer. The best way to describe yourself is use a couple of personality traits. I am a go-getter. I am a team player. A person with a positive attitude. Stop. Don't try to use too many things. Just maybe 2 or 3 personality traits. Stop. Let that person come up with another question. Next is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? This is a smart question, guys. Never ever give out your weaknesses. Talk about your strengths, but don't give your weaknesses. However, if you are still persuaded by the HR to talk about your weakness, speak something positive and make it your weakness. I'll give you one example. What you can see is, one of my major weaknesses, I am absolute passionate about what I do. So if I start working on something, I cannot take mental rest until that work is done. And I have faced problem a few times because of this habit. What you did is you told your weakness. However, that is also a very positive trait. And that's the best way to answer it. Because guys, remember, in interview, there is nothing black, nothing white, it's always gray. Your answers have to be politically correct answers. Do not speak good or bad about anything. Be neutral. That will always make you sound like a smart, intelligent person. That's what companies look at. Next is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? N number of times I've heard this answer from students. I don't know from where they get. I see myself in your area. And the person looks like this and says, boss, you have not even got this job and you want to eat up my job? Because that answer is crazy. Actually, it should be a simple answer. I see myself in a good managerial position in whichever company I'm working at that point of time. That's the best answer to be given to this question. All right, next. Why do you want to work here? Talk good about the company here. Ma'am, I'm a fresher. Or sir, I'm a fresher. It's my first job. And everyone wants to start their career at a good note. And I think this is the best company to start my career. That's the reason I want to work here. Simple. You talk positive about the company and be quiet. The lesser you speak, the better it is going to be. The next one is, why should I hire you? Simple answer. You are here to select the best because you want assets for your organization. Given an opportunity, I can prove to be one of the best assets for the organization. The next one is, what can you do for us that other candidates can't? Now, this is where you again give a politically correct answer. I can't talk about other candidates because I don't know about them much, but I can talk about myself. I can give my best and be the best employee that the company is looking for. Talk good about yourself, but do not talk bad about others. That's a smart answer. That's what we call a politically correct answer. Okay. Now, strategy. Some things that we want you, to be ready before you go for an interview. Tell me about yourself. Prepare a couple of statements to talk about yourself. For this answer, we always suggest speak something which is not there in your resume. Because what is there in your resume is what they have already read. So here you get an opportunity to speak few things about yourself which you have not included in resume. That's normally a good idea. Next is, be honest, show your personality. Don't try to be fake. Because being too good, people understand you are faking up. Don't do that. Okay. Next is, help the interviewer understand that you are a dependable person, a good worker, and you will fit in their requirement. That is what you can do during the process of interview. Next is, whatever you say, okay, keep supporting documents ready. If you say I have done so certificate courses. Keep those documents ready with you. I have participated in so and so competitions. Keep those certificates. Always support your statements with this. And then the last question in both the points are same and give the same answer. Okay. So let's look at this behavioral interview. Most of the cases, as a fresher, you do not come across this. However, for your knowledge sake, I want you people to read these questions and understand that these two questions are actually one and the same, but the way they ask has changed. Tell me about a time that you had a difficult problem to solve. How did you try to solve it? What did you learn from the experience? That sounds more like an individual situation. Look at the next one. Give me your best example of working as a team member to accomplish an important goal. What was the goal? What was your role? What were the results? Guys, if you smartly read them, they are both the same questions. So you can prepare for a short situation, imaginary. If real life, it is fantastic. Think over it and you should be prepared to answer that, right? Now, it's closing the interview. Summarize key strengths and match for the position. Always ask questions. Every interview, end of it, the HR person will ask you, do you have any questions? And most of the students would say, no, never do that. It's always good to ask a question, at least ask. If given an opportunity, would you please explain me the hierarchy in the company? At least that question is something related to company and they will feel, yes, the candidate is interested to know about it. He is positive about getting a job. Next is thank the interviewer by name, because in corporates, we do not have the system of sir and madam. In corporates, it's X and Y. So it's advisable to thank the interviewer with the name. Ask about the next step. Yes, that's the last question. Ma'am, what next? Or sir, what next? Is there another round or should we wait for the result? Ask for the next step and express an interest in hearing from them. Always while leaving them, say, we'll be waiting for your call or your mail or your reply. Say that. Be very positive. You should always end at a positive note, right? So let's summarize. Be confident, play to your strength and win, right? So guys, that's it about the presentation that I had to make on this. And now I think it's time for you people to shoot your questions if you have any. All right. I can see that there are a few questions. So let's go ahead with this. First, while we prepare resume, the font size. Oh, that's a very good question. Standard acceptable is Times New Roman, font size 12 with 1.5 line spacing. That is what is normally expected in your resume. Your resume title, the top, you can give it about a 14 size or maximum 16 size and use bold. The next is in that jam session, which things are important and any pattern is there. Yes, jam session, basically, first thing, they would look at your body language. Second, your presence of mind to speak on a topic which has suddenly been given to you or even without a topic. Pattern, there is no such pattern, but one thing, speak logically. If you start with point 1, go to point 2 and then point 3. It should not be in an embezzled manner that, okay, I spoke one thing and then suddenly I'm to the next one. That should not happen, right? So I think this were the couple of questions. If there are any other questions, Sriram sir can for sure let us know. And if there are no other questions, guys, from my side, I can say thank you for investing your time with us today. From my end, it was a pleasure talking to you, hoping that you have learned something, you have added to your existing knowledge. All the best, guys. And I have got one more question now. In that, no, I think that's not a question. That's just the basic thing. So, guys, from my side, one small request: stay home, stay safe, stay healthy. Take care of yourself. Thank you. Over to Sriram, sir.
Thank you, Mitesh sir. Vidyadanam Sarvadhana Pradhanam. It means knowledge is the most valuable thing. It is the head of the values and valuable things. I am sure the session has been knowledge seeking. These days, the letter S in the word skill might stand for success itself. So, skills like communication skills, soft skills, interview skills are all evidently important for the career aspirants. Having the confidence that the session has surely hit the nail, I propose the old lines for the webinar. I humbly thank the Director General Professor Abhirama Krishna sir, the Vice Principals Dr. M. Srinivas sir, Dr. Rajesh Agarwal sir, Sri Janikaram sir, Srimati Anupama madam, and my dear friend Naveen Kumar, technical support staff, technical support staff, Hayat Basha, Bharat and Nazir, and participants. Sincere thanks to the college management for its abundant encouragement in the staff's endeavors, and also extend my kudos to dear speaker Mitesh Kadakia for initiating such an informative webinar. Link will be shared in the chat box. All the participants who fill the feedback will get the certificates within a week. Finally, I asked a question before the session: which one weigh heavier, a kilogram of cotton or a kilogram of stones? Your guess is right. Both will weigh same because both are the kilograms. Cheers. Bye. Namaste.